everyone. I hope you're all having a lovely morning so far. Let me just start by saying thank you. You know, this is a huge thing for my family and I, and for the charities that we're supporting. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here today. This charity is something that's very important to us, and you know, we're really glad that we're able to share this experience with you. Thank you to the Olympic for allowing us to do this, you know, and provide this fantastic venue so that this was all possible. I really hope you enjoy the movie. There's going to be a short Q&A afterwards where you can ask all your questions and give me all your critiques if you like. But I look forward to meeting you afterwards, and thank you so much again for coming. Thank you very much. I really love this movie. One of the amazing things about this film, as you can probably tell from the ridiculously long credits, is how many people they hire and how many jobs we put out there. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It was tiring, it was hard work, but it's paid off, and I'm really glad you guys were here today to watch it. So if you have any questions about how we made it, please feel free to ask away. Hey.
I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, so I've been waiting a long time to kind of see, obviously, Spidey join the MCU and stuff. And congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
It's so good. It's so good. I just wondered, there's a scene where you go to speak to Mr. Keaton, where in the Brooklyn, in the warehouse,
Yeah.
and then the rubble falls on top of you.
Yes.
And that is obviously heavily inspired by a really early issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
You're a proper fan. You're like a great, real fan. Okay. Well, okay, I need to concentrate now.
Yeah, it's an early Stan Lee and Steve Ditko issue called The Final Chapter, and it's a really like iconic Spider-Man moment where he's trapped under the rubble. I wondered if anybody had, if you read that issue, did anybody give it to you to read, or if you look at the art?
I don't have that issue. I have read that issue. Marvel have access to all the comics you could possibly imagine, and their app. I don't know if you know about their app.
I do, yeah.
You can download every comic you could possibly imagine. That scene was so painful to film. Like, I was stuck under this thing, and we had to shoot it 3 different times because one time they forgot to roll the cameras, and then the next time the water didn't work, and then the mask got stuck on my head and I couldn't get it off, and I was like waterboarding myself. That was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in a movie, ever. But when we were filming in New York, we went to a comic book store, and we were talking to the owner, who is a die-hard Spider-Man fan, and we were like, what do you want to see in this movie? If you could see one thing, what would it be? And he was like, I want to see Spider-Man stuck under the rubble after fighting the Vulture. I want that to be in the movie. And we showed him a picture. We're like, look, we did it. And he was he was so happy. So for me, that's the most rewarding part of watching this movie, because it was just such a tough day.
It's such a brilliant thing. It was an absolute delight to see it on the big screen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. At the back, you have to speak up. Sorry.
What's your favourite comic? Like, just overall, any Marvel comic?
It has to be Spider-Man. It has to be. Apart from Spider-Man,
Yeah.
probably Spider-Man. He's probably my favourite.
Okay, favourite universe then?
Favorite universe would be the Ultimate Universe of Spider-Man. For me personally, my favorite part of that storyline is the Clone Saga. No, that's Star Wars. The Clone. What do we call it? Clone Wars. Clone something. The one where there's loads of Peter Parkers. And I keep pitching. What? No, not the Spider-Verse.
It's the Clone Saga.
Clone Conspiracy.
No, that's the newest one.
I feel like we're having a little podcast, a little Marvel podcast going on. The one where there's like 5 Peter Parkers and they all fight each other. And yeah, that's my favourite one from the comics. I think it's really cool. And I'd like to play 5 different versions of myself. I think that would be really fun. But yeah. The scene where I jump over the fence out of the school was really fun. The scene where I stand on the side of the building and I catch my web shooter cartridge was really fun. There's a scene that's actually not in the movie where I had to run up this steel beam and stop at the top. It's after the rubble when I run to catch the Vulture as he's flying off to get the airplane, and I just asked the stunt coordinator, I was like, can I just jump off at the end of the rail? He was like, no, not really. I was like, but I'm on wires. What's the worst that's going to happen? He was like, okay, just give it a go and we'll see what happens. and it was so cool. And that bit where I jump off and web him is from that scene, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. That was probably my favourite one.
After like being in film and everything, like, what advice would you like give someone who's like working towards being an actor and stuff? Like, after your experience?
I think just stick with it, you know. I've been so lucky in my career that opportunities have presented themselves really early on, but I've been, you know, I made sure that I capitalized on that and worked as hard as I could when an opportunity came up. But, you know, there are always times where you go to auditions and you don't get them, and it is tough, you know, it's disheartening, but just stick with it. And, you know, if it's something that you really love and you're really passionate about, just watch as many movies as you can. I wish I read more books. Every director I meet, they're like, how many books a year do you read? I'm like, I've read like 5 in my life, including my dad's. You should check them out. They're really fun books. But yeah, so you gotta just, you know, familiarize yourself with the industry, but just stick with it.
So, there's 2 questions. How long does it take to learn how to do all the stunts?
I mean, I've been lucky that I had a gymnastics background from when I was a kid. I used to do a show on the West End, and yeah, Billy Elliot, so I had to do all sorts of backflips and stuff for that. So when I was auditioning for Spider-Man, every audition I did, I would do a backflip, just to show them that I could. Because Spider-Man is such a physical character. I was like, oh, and by the way, I can do backflips. And yeah, so for me, that was a large part of doing the job. And yeah, so it didn't take me too long. I've been learning since I was a kid.
How much of it was shot in studio and on the streets of Manhattan?
It's amazing. Very little of it was shot in New York. We shot probably 90% of it in Atlanta, in Georgia. Well, I know there's some Georgianians, is that what we call you? No, that's Atlantan people. I love Atlanta, by the way. I miss it a lot. But yeah, so we shot in a studio there. They have an amazing set of studios, Pinewood Studios, and we shot all the action sequences there. And then we shot in New York, we shot in Queens, and we shot in Brooklyn. We didn't shoot anything in Manhattan, and then we shot in Berlin, in Germany, which is the beginning of the movie where you see me filming. So yeah, so not much at all was shot in Manhattan.
I just wondered, how difficult was it to learn the Queen's accent?
That was fun. I really enjoyed that. For me, acting in an accent immediately differentiates yourself from the character, so you already feel like you're acting, which is, for me, is a huge help. The problem is when I came back from making the movie, I would say yeah all the time, which is a very New York thing, and my friends at home, like, dude, what are you doing? Why do you keep going yeah? So for me, when I spend so long doing an accent, the hardest part for me is losing that accent and becoming English again. And being English in America is like a superpower. So, you know, you've got to make sure you maintain that. But no, it wasn't too difficult, but I had a good coach who helped me out. Sorry, I'll come to you next.
What part of the film were you most excited about that you found most difficult to keep a secret on casting?
Obviously, Michael Keaton opening the door. Like, but the funny thing is when I was watching the movie, I actually forgot that was the twist. So I was watching it for the first time, like, what's going to happen? I was like, I know what's going to happen. I'm in the movie. But when he opened the door, and what I think John Watts did so well, is that the movie's so fun and lighthearted that you kind of forget that the stakes are about to get really high. So for me, I forgot that was going to happen. But when everyone was like, so tell us more about the Vulture, I'd immediately be like, he used to be Batman. Anyway, next question, move on. But yeah, so that was the hardest question for me to keep a secret.
Okay, so obviously John Watts did a really great job on the film, but who would you like to work with next film? Maybe on the next Spider-Man is probably him, I don't know. But otherwise, who else would you see direct another Spider-Man film with you, or what director would you like to work with?
You know, I wouldn't want to do a Spider-Man movie without John Watts. You know, he really knows everything about Spider-Man, and he brought such a fantastic theme to the movie. You know, I think one of the great things about the movie is it's timeless. It's a movie for everyone. It's like Toy Story. It's funny for kids and it's funny for adults. Actors I'd love to work with, directors I'd love to work with in the future: Scorsese, Alejandro Inarritu. I'm about to make a movie with Doug Liman in Montreal, which I'm very excited about. I can't tell you about that though. I was about to get into trouble. Yeah, so there's loads of people I'd love to work with, and the amazing thing about my job is every job is different, every director's different, and you're constantly learning. You can never, everyone always says like, oh, he's mastered his craft. Firstly, it's not really a craft, I just lie for a living. And secondly, you can't possibly master it because there's so many different versions of this crazy, crazy world.
Without getting yourself into trouble, are you able to tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about Infinity War?
Next question. No, I can't. If I'm honest, I don't know anything about that movie because I'm so bad at keeping secrets for Marvel. They didn't let me read the script, so I don't actually know. I know I play Spider-Man. That's about it. That's all I know. But I wouldn't be able to answer your questions.
Out of all the places that you've been around the world filming and everything, which one was your favorite? And if you were to go to another place to go film, a place where would you like to travel to and why?
I think my favorite place I've ever been while filming was Thailand. My whole family and I lived in Thailand for 5 months on this movie called The Impossible, and it became our home, and the people there were so welcoming, and we had such a wonderful time, and we really felt like we were part of that place. And I haven't been back since. And Ben Perkins, who is actually here today, my acting coach, we've always dreamed about going back and spending Christmas there or something. So Thailand would be my favorite place. Places I'd love to go to Australia. That's somewhere that everyone talks. Are you from Australia? Did you come from Australia to be here? Explain kind.
I went to the LA premiere of Spider-Man.
So you went to the LA one too?
Yeah, I also went to the Los Angeles premiere last year in New York. My name's Tess.
Hey Tess. My dog is called Tess.
Not specifically for you.
It sounds like you are going specifically, if I'm honest.
It's really good timing.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your dedication. I mean, I hardly made it to those premieres. I was so tired. And you were there ahead of me. But, yeah, next question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, it's obviously hard work to do a movie like this and work so many hours and all that. And I was just wondering, is there something or someone that kind of inspires you when you act, or when you have to keep working? And so, yeah.
I think it's probably just the people around you on set. Film sets are very family-based places, A lot of the stunt guys are all fathers and sons, the sound guys are fathers and sons, and everyone's really, really hard-working, and they're all always on time, they're there working hard, and there's a lot of solidarity between a crew on set, and for me, I just love being part of that unit, and doing my part of the job is far easier than what other people have to do on a film set. So I'm more than happy to, keep pushing through and doing the work. And yeah, I just love being part of a team. And a film set is the tightest team you could possibly meet. And I love it. Yeah.
Okay, you need to concentrate for this one, okay? How did you find out who you were, Spider-Man? No, it's a joke. Never mind.
I've been asked that question so many times.
I know, that's why.
Thank you, Charlotte.
No, it's a joke. You can go.
What's your next question? Oh, you don't actually have a question.
That was a joke, that's all.
Oh, that was okay. Brilliant, thanks. In the middle.
Two questions.
Two questions.
Really before. Did you have any suggestions, things that weren't in the original script that made their way into the final film version? And secondly, next film, Pilgrimage, is it getting a cinema release? Because it's been made years and years ago, and I think it might be out sometime soon.
With the Pilgrimage, I don't actually know what's happening with that one. I think that came out the other day. Really? I love that you guys know more about my career. But no, I don't know much about the release of the Pilgrimage. But yeah, the great thing about John Watts is that, like me, he hadn't done this before. He hadn't made a movie of this scale. It was only his second movie, really. So it was a fantastic thing for me to be able to be in the same boat as my director. We were going through the same thing at the same time. So he was open to me bringing ideas to the table because, he needed every bit of help he could get. And I was glad that I was able to offer him, my service as an actor. And, I wrote lines, I did ad-libs, I came up with action sequences that I wanted to add in the movie. And admittedly, a fair few of them weren't very good. He would explain to me why they weren't very good. But there's a few in the movie that are my idea, and you know, off the cuff, improvised moments and stuff. So he was fantastic to work with in that sense, because he would just let you kind of experiment and try new things. And if they were rubbish, you just move on. If they were great, then you would find ways to add that in throughout the movie.
How did you feel coming into something as big as the MCU, where all the other actors have an established dynamic? Are you filming? Yeah, a little bit. Sorry.
It's okay.
Where they had sort of an established dynamic, was it quite daunting?
Yeah, I mean, Civil War, for me, I got cast on Friday, and I started shooting on Monday, and then 2 weeks later I'd finished the movie, you know? And I left and was like, I don't feel like I did anything. That was the most bizarre experience of my life. So it wasn't until I watched Civil War with an audience that I suddenly was like, oh my goodness, I'm in this crazy world. And we actually we were at D23 only a week ago, which is Disney's Comic-Con type thing, and all the Avengers were on stage. I was obviously there with them, and we sat down and we were watching the Avengers trailer, which is incredible, by the way, and I was watching it thinking I would be the first person in the queue to see Avengers 1 and Iron Man 1. I would be the first person to see those movies, and here I am watching a movie that I would be the first in line to see, that I'm now in, sitting on the floor with the Avengers, and I was trying my best not to cry. I was having one of those moments like, this is the most incredible moment of my life, I can't believe this is happening. So it was so surreal, and that was the like real moment of me realizing that this was real, and it was something that was actually happening.
Guys, we have 2 more questions, because we need the theatre back for the Olympics. Just 2 more questions, please.
Who's got really good questions? You at the back, bud. Yeah.
If you could play one film character, who would it be and why?
Probably James Bond. Yeah. I really want to do young James Bond. I have a very inappropriate joke about James Bond, but I'm not going to make it. You can probably find it on the internet somewhere. But yeah, I'd really like to play James Bond one day. But I said 5 years ago I'd really like to play Spider-Man. Here I am, so I keep plugging James Bond. And yeah, just you there.
Now that we know that Peter Parker speaks Spanish, and that you work with a Spanish director from The Impossible, can we hear you maybe say something in Spanish now? You don't have to say the puta madre, we know that's how it works.
Gracias. Hasta luego. Thank you so much for coming. It really means a lot to us, and I trust me and my brothers are going to have a fantastic time raising money and making a difference, and you're our first kickstart to really making a difference, so thank you very much. Thanks, guys.